Hey programmers, what is going on? I'm the Savage Coder and this is episode 19. In this episode, we're going to continue where we left off in episode 18, where we created that sign up form. We're going to wrap up that data, we're going to encrypt some passwords, and we're going to send it through a service and repo layer. So, without delaying, let's get to it. So next thing we want to do is we want to create a service and a repo to finish this off. So let's go and make we're going to add class in our services. User management service. Just copied that. And then we're going to add class. I'm going to select interface this time. User management service. We will make that public and go back into user management service and implement user management service. Same thing for repositories. Add class. I'll do the interface first. User management repository. Copy. I will make the interface public. Add class user management repository, and we will implement user management repository. Before I forget, let's go add those to dependency injection in startup. I'm just gonna print that there, and then we'll add 2 of those lines. Cut that out. And so we have an user management repository and user management repository. And just so I don't have to type it. Oops, not product service, wrong one. User management service. So okay. So we have our singletons added for dependency injection. And now we can go into our controller and we can add that dependency. This should be familiar to you by now. Private, read-only, user management service. User management. I'm just going to do this. And then I'll go back and make that lowercase. Let's bring in the using statement for my service. And then I'm going to have it generate my constructor. Awesome. So now I want to come down here and I basically want to await an async call that's going to be something like user management service dot signup. And I want to pass this one of 2 things. I can pass it the whole view model, or I can break up the view model into its individual properties here. And I think I'm going to do that for now. We're eventually going to get into some automapper stuff where this will be a little less tedious to type. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these in. But basically all I did here was just view model dot, and I just put each of the properties from the view model in here separated by commas, and I'm just passing those values to sign up. And because this is sign up and it's a post, it's an insert, so it doesn't return me anything. And I'm going to generate my interface based on these properties here. So if I go and look, it knows it's a task because it was async. And let's make that look a little nicer. But there's my interface. I have a sign up method that takes first name, last name, email, password, username, and postal code. So I can go into my service. I can implement my interface. And this guy will basically call out to the repository. So let's add that in. Same as before, private read-only, user management repository. And I'm just going to copy that because I'm being lazy today. Boom. And we will bring in the namespace. And we will generate the constructor. This becomes async. And we will await a sign up. Now, all we've got to do is pass these guys in here, but I don't want the user's typed password to go anywhere farther than my service. The repository layer's job is to get data and store data. So that doesn't include encrypting, which is basically changing the data. And the service layer is meant for that. So we need to hash this password into something that is cryptographically safe and something that we cannot reverse engineer. So we're going to add a dependency by right-clicking dependencies, manage NuGet packages, and we're going to click browse. And in the search box, I'm going to look for system.web.helpers.crypto. This is from Microsoft. And so we can rely on that to be accurate and safe. At least that's what they want me to tell you. No, it's good stuff. So I'm going to create a new variable called encrypted password. And it's going to equal the password that we get sent from the user, but we want to encrypt that password. So I'm going to call, so let's add our using for system.web.helpers. There we go. System.web.helpers has crypto.hash password. And you just pass it your plain text password. And that's it. It's that easy. It will take care of the salt value, which gets is a random value that gets encrypted and hashed into the actual password. So the hash function that verifies knows how to get the random salt out of the encrypted password and use it to hash another password to make sure that it verifies. Think of it this way. If I typed in password 123, let me just comment this out so it doesn't underline everything. That's the password that I passed in. And let's say I pass it to crypto.hashpassword and it gives me back that. Well, let's just say, for argument's sake, it's not necessarily at the end, but let's say that it used ZZZ as its salt value. So it took ZZZ and it combined that, right? So it took ZZZ and it combined that to some crypto method that hashes the password and it used ZZZ. So here, let's get rid of that. That's a little confusing. So since I used ZZZ to hash this password, if I gave crypto the hash password, and a new comparison, which was the actual plain text password, it can look at this value, it can grab ZZZ out of it, it can encrypt this with the same ZZZ and see if it matches this again. I don't have to know what the password actually is, I just have to be able to take the user's password and give it to crypto and it'll tell me, yep, that's right or wrong because I know this. So nowhere in our code will we ever store the actual password. As a matter of fact, in our code, it doesn't get farther than this. I'm going to paste in some code here. So now we're passing in first name, last name, email, but the encrypted version of the password, username, and postal code, and we will store all of that in the database. So let's create our repo interface from that. Looks good. And now we can implement the interface. And what we're going to do here is call an API. So we'll have some kind of an API object that we have to pass. So we'll call it like user sign up is equal to some new user sign up. And we will copy the values in there. So let's make that model add class user sign up. Cool. And it is going to really be the same as our view model. So we can just copy this. And I know what you're saying, like if we already have that class, why don't we just use the view model? And the reason is this user sign up model is actually going to come from our API. And if the API ever changes what it returns, I don't want it to be tied or tightly coupled, if you will, to our actual view code. I may want to eventually change our view to not contain username, and I don't want to have to worry about breaking the API's models. So we keep our code models and our view models separate from our API's models, and our API keeps its public models separate from even its domain models that it uses internally. And we'll use AutoMapper for this later on, where we won't have to write the actual code to do this assignment that we're going to do right now. But for now, just to keep it simple, we're going to do it manually. And then you'll appreciate it more later. So we're just going to, user sign up. Let's bring in the using. And so now its first name property I want to assign to the first name that we passed in here. So I'm just going to go through those and put the rest of these in. So we copied that. So we'll just call this password, but we'll know that we're assigning the encrypted password. Awesome. This needs to be async. I always forget that. And then from here, we're basically going to just call the API. So to do that, we need to bring in a package. I'm going to right-click dependencies, manage NuGet, and we're going to bring in Floral, which is already in, and it's already in, so I don't have to bring it in. If you don't have this already, go ahead and install both of those. And I'm going to add my using Floral and using Floral HTTP. Cool. And now I will just, oops, Now I'll just make a string, and in it we'll put HTTPS localhost, and this is going to be the port of your API. So you may want to go bring up your API, run it, and grab just the localhost port part. Everything before /swagger. And that's what we need in here. Okay. And then after that, I will do dot append path segment, and we're going to call API users because it's a user post, basically. We haven't created that yet. That will be another episode. And then we will post JSON async, and the user sign up object will get passed. And that's it. Let's walk through this. I'll put a couple breakpoints, and we'll put a breakpoint on the service because I do want to show you this encrypted password. All right, my API is running, so now we no longer get an error. So let's go to user management sign up. I'm a new user. All right, sign up. So there's my view model, first name, all my stuff's there. So I'm going to step in. And now, so the password I'm passing in is password123. I hope you guys can see that. And then if I encrypt it with hash password, it looks like this. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it in Notepad. Okay, so there's the encrypted password, but I want to show you something. That if I put my cursor back on the encrypted password line, right click and do set next statement, I can actually run it again. And so I'm passing the same password 123 into crypto hash password. And here's my hashed password. Let me paste that in here. Can you see those aren't the same? They both start with AI, but after that, this one's got an H, this one's got a G, so it's different. I believe it'll always end with an equals equals, but those are the same password encrypted. And what I can do is I can use, and we'll do this later. I can do crypto.verify hashed password, and I can give it the hashed password. So let me grab the first one off of my notepad. I'm just going to put it in quotes. And then I'm going to give it the clear text password, which is well, I can just give it the variable password. And it will tell me, yep, this junk matches that password value. And I can replace the other one in here. And even though they're different, because they contain the salt in this, it's able to re-encrypt this password and get the same answer so it knows it's true. Now, if somebody tampers with this string or this password, I'm just going to add a Q in there, right? So it's the same length, but now I changed one of the characters. So now if we try, it's false. Also, if I use the right one that's true, and I change the value of the password to be password124, which is the wrong password, it also will tell me that is not correct. So we'll be able to log this user in later and know that they gave us the right password without storing the password in the database. And then we'll use that information to look up the user and create the token that we need for authentication. So this is just the first step of many. And so we can keep stepping through here. We're not going to be able to make this call because there is no user's endpoint on the API yet. So I'm going to have to stop it here. So hopefully that was really cool that we were able to create a sign up form that looks halfway decent. We were able to collect and data bind all of our view model properties to an actual view model using MVC helpers. And we were able to take all those values and send it to a service layer that encrypted a password and then sends that password and the rest of the data to the API. And next episode, we will do the API side so we can store that. And then we'll get into the actual tokens back and forth, and we'll get into permissions and how to lock things down based on passwords and roles. And it's really, really interesting stuff, I think. So hopefully you learned a lot. Yeah, I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I enjoyed doing it. So if you like this and you thought it was helpful, please subscribe if you can. I appreciate that greatly. And as always, practice, practice, practice. And I will continue this journey next. And I'll see you online.